Happy Saturn's Day, Collective. It's good to be back. It's been about 2 weeks. Hope everyone's doing well. And if you are new here, welcome to my little channel. And if you don't mind, I would greatly appreciate if you hit the subscribe button. If plants and the planets and food and feelings seems like a collection of interests for you these days. If you are not new here and you are returning, thank you. I appreciate you. And you may or may not be somebody who saw my last video 2 weeks ago. Feels like a lifetime ago, honestly. And I talked about losing my two beloved dogs. And it was probably to date like the hardest thing I've endured in my adult life, which is saying a lot, given the events that kicked off this channel being started back at the beginning of 2023. Yeah, 2023. But I'm glad to be back, and it's been like I said, it's been 2 weeks, but it feels like an entirely different timeline. It's gonna sort of be, for me at least on this channel, the sort of the videos that all happened prior to the last video that I made, and all of the ones, including this one, going forward. So that's been its own really interesting milestone, right when I think that I understand like what the journey being displayed on this channel is or was. Starting with my very first video, I thought, well, like sort of healing in front of people, beginning with the first video I decided to post, I want to say like September of last year. And at that point I was coming off months of like going to therapy every week and building my life back up piece by piece and taking care of my two dogs. And so, of course, when I first decided to start posting and like talking about those experiences, of course, in my mind, I think that's like what the sort of before and after is. The before sort of happened off camera, and then I record my first video and I tell you guys about what led to creating the channel, and then I just sort of like bring you along on the journey from that point on. Well, the universe, of course, has its own plan sometimes, and I think really I'm just understanding like more than ever the purpose of this channel over the last 2 weeks. And I'm actually more grateful than ever that I had started this project when I did last year, because I realized that if I didn't have it to come back to after these, the events of the last couple weeks, I feel like it would be a lot harder to, I don't know, like gain a sense of footing, or like I just think it would have been harder to pick up where I left off while still having the momentum, the creative momentum that this channel has really provided for me over these last few months. And it's been hard because I guess if I rewind, the really hard part of right when I recorded that last video, I want to say I was just coming off of it was like 24 hours maybe since I had to say goodbye to both of my dogs, and I was still very much in a state of I don't know if shock is the right word, but I was still very much in like a survival mode, and very well aware of the fact that like I had a little bit of a journey ahead of me, um, because the reality was that the most traumatic thing about it was like going through that weekend that I described in the video. It was like I realized how I'm used to saying goodbye to things. I'm used to starting over on my own, or like moving forward without, after having lost a loved one, or something like that. But it was enduring that weekend alone, and having to find a way to like stand in that authority and like give my dogs a dignified like goodbye and hold it together. Um, that was like, it felt like the longest weekend ever. And so really the last 2 weeks has been less about imagining my life without my two dogs, although that is hard because I miss them. It was very much focused on like cultivating joy um, as a necessary counterbalance to the trauma of that weekend. Like the weekend itself was very, very hard. And so I was just, the good thing about enduring something like that is, if you set in your mind that like, okay, the focus is on joy, come hell or high water, it's going to come to you pretty easily. That's the thing, is like, but you have to decide that that's what you're going to do, because it occurred to me that a past version of me that wasn't so used to loss, and like sitting kind of in communion with loss and like death and just grief of many kinds, I realized how good I had gotten at it. Like I, I almost, after the events of the last few weeks, I'm like, you know, it wouldn't be a terrible use of my experience in life to become like a death doula or something like that, because I can handle it, and especially when it comes to like situations that I can be removed from, like detached from. That's one thing that I has been forged in the fire, and I've become like expert at this point. But um, one of the harder things to do, unless you've like had this experience too, um, is deciding that you are going to focus on joy, because you almost, especially if you're not used to loss, and you are kind of haunted by these feelings of like, one day you have something and then the next day it's not there, and you just like are sitting there having these like going into this existential drift sometimes, like, I don't understand, like they were right, they were just here and now they're not here. And um that's really hard. And sometimes it is like useful to like ponder those things, sit in those moments, but you can't stay there, because um your life has to go on. And like, just like anyone that you lose, things that you love, I've always said that like the way that those things endure is like the love for the things that we lose, the people that we lose, animals that we lose, that endures by the people left behind that love them. So in other words, like, it would be up to me to like make sure that I was okay, and like remained whole, and remained in a state of balance, to where um, grief and like love that outlasts the physical body, that didn't become distorted into some like permanent state of looking back. And that's what's hard, is like the reason that like being like someone left behind that loves something that's gone is so hard, is because you have to walk the walk forward while carrying the love of like something whose physical body has passed. And that's it forever changes you. I've done that with people. And so, like I said, I have experience in it, but um, it's just the weekend of like having to make those decisions, and like the feelings of it all, and like the feelings that it brought back from like the events of over a year ago. It was sort of what it really was it was it was like the second stage of a transformation that wasn't going to be able to happen until those two things that I shared with someone else were gone. And like that's something that I've known, for over a year. Um, so it's sort of like that final closing chapter where every piece of your old life that you once knew is gone. And on the one hand, it makes it, it really solidified to me how much easier it would be. It helped me understand a lot of things. It helped me understand like when you look back and you're like left in like the rubble of like a life that you share with someone, and like you've got these two animals that you both loved once together, and you sit there and you go like, how is it so easy for this person to just pretend like um we never existed? How is it so easy for this person to move on and like start a whole nother life with somebody else, like just in no time? And I started to realize over these last 2 weeks, like I get it now. I do get it, because um, if you were to just leave not only the physical place where all the like visual cues and memories are everywhere, and of course the person, but also the two animals, um, and you just like out of sight, out of mind, everything, and you just plop yourself somewhere else, you realize like, wow, I guess in the right state of fragmentation or something like dissociation. I don't really, not qualified, coin the term there, but like um I realized like, man, I the progress that you can make in a new life would come a lot faster when there was um no pieces left of the old one. So it's a very weird mixed bag of feelings that I find myself in, because I finally am like on equal footing with this person that I've just had to sort of grapple with like wow, this person just like totally took the fast track to a whole nother life, and you would think years have passed. And so I've really started to understand like the power of having all of it gone, and like me, it's just me left in this house. And I had said, at the end of the last video, that I'd probably go somewhere for a little while, which I did, which was extremely, extremely helpful. And I can't state that enough. Um, it was essential, actually. And I realized like how necessary that was for an energetic reset for me. Um, and I'm so grateful for people in my life that like welcome me in their house, like to just show up and stay, and sort of get my bearings again, and like just have simple joy to help like propel me into, I guess, this next stage. So uh the immediate aftermath was sort of this uh adrenaline fueled, a little bit of like sleep deprived days of logically thinking about what I would need to do for my environment, my physical environment, once these two dogs were gone. um, what things I needed to do before I left the house for a few days. So I ended up leaving for a week and like staying with one of my cousins and his wife. And I was able to stay there and celebrate my birthday there, and like ended up staying for about a week. And it was just like the most. I actually don't know what I would have done without that opportunity. It would have like been a lot harder, because waking up the next day, which I guess would have been the day I recorded that video, it was really hard. It was all the rituals, like all the way my day was structured, was no more. And like on the one hand, it freed up. I realized, like, especially over these last few weeks, like how much of my life force really was dedicated to those two dogs. And like I don't know, I'm proud looking back that I was able to like give that much of myself. But with all of it freed up, I was like, I have to like rebuild the structure again, like just like I had to a year ago. This is like sort of a now totally like me focused restructuring. And so that's like been something that I'm like, wow, I've been really like needing this. Honestly, it's been like an overall good, of course, but it's just like a little bit shocking to the system. So I wanted to prepare my physical environment. I didn't just want to leave town, like just coming right off of that event. I did. It was like sort of like ripping the Band-Aid off over and over for a couple of days before I got in my car and like left for a week. And the first, I guess, 24 hours was the most painful because, immediately after the vet left, and not a second before, but when she did leave and she brought the two dogs with her, the way it works, in case anybody wants to know for future reference, is like um, you can opt to have, your dog's remains like, cremated, and like they arrange with your vet for you to come pick up their ashes like, a week or so. I still haven't done that. I guess that's like the thing that I'm avoiding that I'm going to get to this week. Um, and so the vet brings the dog's bodies like with her. And so what you've got left in that moment, in that aftermath, is like, all right, this vet just left with my two dogs that passed. And I've had dogs for like 16 years, and I have a household that reflects that. And like, so it was immediately like zooming through the house, like collecting like it was like dog beds upstairs and dog beds downstairs, and like dog towels, and like a whole drawer dedicated with like dog cleaning stuff, and like dog treats in the pantry, and like dog bowls, and then a whole half a bag of dog food. And I mean, everywhere. It was just reminders were everywhere. And what was hard was like I realized, like, wow, some place could really benefit from all these donations. And like the thing was, I just couldn't do it. Like I could not, the thought of like loading that stuff up in my car and then like driving around to like wherever places like the shelter, I physically could not do it. And I forgave myself for that. I just had to let that go. And I just was glad that the next day was trash day, and I just loaded up the trash bin. Honestly, I loaded it all up because I no longer had a need for any dog stuff. And like I realized that it was going to be damaging to leave traces of stuff in my house that someone who doesn't own dogs anymore just doesn't need. Like, and realizing that those objects weren't my dogs. Like, and so I just zoomed through and like I even asked a neighbor, if you have any extra space in your trash can, like I'd really appreciate it. Just reaching out like in directions that I knew could help me without like making it anyone else's like problem. Uh, and it was really hard. And I knew, like, in that immediate aftermath, I knew I was going to break down and cry in the midst of like throwing things away and all that. But, the goal wasn't to suppress those things. The goal was to just get through the tasks because they had to get done. And I wasn't going to leave my house and then come back after putting all that effort into like an energy reset, just to have these like reminders everywhere, and then like to get stuck in this place of like of very unproductive longing, where I look at objects like, oh, these toys or this or that I had no use for, and then grew like, developed an unhealthy attachment to these things or something. I just, so it was important for me to get through those tasks. And so I did that. And of course, it wasn't like an hour in, and I just like, I'm like cleaning off the couch because, I had spent the last 2 nights like in this like survival mode, spending the night on the couch, and like there was like towels, like just evidence of like the struggles of the weekend, and like a lot of stuff I just threw away, even if it's like certain towels or blankets that could have been washed. It was like I just didn't want to see them again. And so I kept going and like cleaning the floors and area rugs that like I had only had down so that the older dog, Bear, wouldn't slip, on like a lot of the open floor. I just gathered up all this stuff and like areas of the floor I hadn't seen in years, honestly, and I just threw lots of stuff away. And then of course I broke down, cried like standing at the washing machine, and then like let myself cry, and then kept doing the laundry as I was crying, and then I would stop crying, and then like I would keep doing tasks, and then I would think of a friend that was like always like was doing something that either would make me laugh or like I don't know, doing something like involving her kids that had nothing to do with what I was doing, and like that was exactly what I wanted. So I sent one of my friends, that friend, a voice memo, and I was just like, I don't even remember if I had told her what had happened, and I was just like, hey, what are you doing? I need to, I need a distraction or something. And I was so grateful because she voice memoed me back like 5 voice memos, and like the first one was like her munching on popcorn. She's like, I'm munching on popcorn in the carpool pickup line, and it was just like such a relief because it had nothing to do with anything that I was preoccupied with, and that was exactly what I wanted. It was like this levity, and then I was just explaining to her like all these things I was doing, and she was, you know, sending me 21 questions about like, oh, what are you using for this? Like, what paint colors do you want to use? What are you thinking for your redecorating project here? And it was just like things to where she would have asked me, if we were in person, and she just decided to send me this like laundry list of questions that like she knew I would be enthusiastic about answering, um, just in general, but also as a distraction for myself. And so just going back and forth with her with those voice memos as I had laundry going on, like vacuuming and stuff and cleaning the floor, I was so grateful for it, like, because there was going to be nothing to come of like sitting in this space of just like closing myself off from the world and like shutting people out. And you know it's hard though, because if you're not experienced in these moments, like that's what your inclination is. It's like close all the blinds and like just sort of shut down and like lay down and like almost like hold that space or something. Um, so I was really grateful for that. And then of course I would have like another moment of like emotions would just like wash over me, and like I just had gotten really good in the past year of letting that happen, because like it's got to come out, and if you don't let it, you're just signing yourself up for some terrible experience. It's like probably magnified and worsened like down the road. So you know you just got to keep plugging through like the things, and then when you feel like you're gonna cry, you need to cry, you need to let it out. And man, those are some, I guess I was just banking on the fact that like eventually I would run out of like fluid to cry. And that is actually what happened. Like I just didn't resist it and would just let it just flow. And it did. Um so it was like, and then like little things that felt really, it almost felt shitty, but like in a way I didn't understand why. Like So there's this the entrance way where my front door is. uh I had painted it, or my cousin's wife um had actually come right after like my fiance left, and like we were sort of like going for this energetic restart then too. And she had painted this really great color that I love called Green Smoke by Farrow and Ball. I love that color. Just as a side note, if you're really looking for a great green color, she painted my front entrance that color, and I loved it. I loved it then. I love it now. And like when the sun shines in at a certain time of the afternoon, you could see nose prints all over the bottom of the wall ever since it was painted that dark color. And it's because, like I said, Bear, who was blind, she would bop around like the downstairs all day. So like her nose prints were, you know, all over the wall, but like because all the other walls are light colored, you couldn't see it. But because of the dark color, the green smoke, where the sun shines in really bright at a certain time of the afternoon, you could just see smudge prints all over the bottom part of the wall, just like at the bottom of the appliances too. And it drove me nuts, like, because that's just the kind of person I am. But I was just like, well, there's no point. I mean, I'm not going to not let her like bump around, and I'm not going to like bother myself with trying to wipe off nose prints off the wall every day. So part of that, like running around and like throwing things away and getting rid of things that like I just didn't need, that weren't gonna bring my dogs back, um, was going and like wiping those nose prints off the wall. And that felt that was a really weird space, because like I felt terrible doing it, but I was like, it's gonna feel more terrible coming back after being gone a week, and then having all the stuff be clean, and then like looking over there at one part of the day and seeing those nose prints. Like I just, my ability to predict my future needs, I guess, was very useful in those immediate days after, before I left town, because I knew that like, as painful as it felt, like it's like, am I just wiping away evidence that they existed? Like that's not it. I mean, I couldn't forget if I tried. um I knew it would just not be helpful to like see those things coming back. And I'm really grateful. I'm extremely grateful. I put such concerted effort into those things for myself. It was definitely a gift to future me, as I often do when current me isn't really feeling it. So I was very grateful for that, a foresight then. And it really made for a very effective trip. Like it felt like I was gone a lot longer than a week, honestly. And like I could honestly, I haven't had a better birthday than the one that I had, as strange as it sounds, in years. And like I was trying to think about why that is. I mean, initially it sounds like a really terrible indictment on like my ex. Um but if I'm being honest, it's, I don't know, I don't want to get into that. But I do think a big part of it is how much effort had to go into making sure that it was a really good birthday. Realizing that like it was going to be up to me, not saying that other people didn't play a really big part of it, because they did. They really showed up. Like lots of people showed up in their own ways. And like but like I wasn't depending on that. Like I was sort of just took control mentally, and thought like, well, it's up to you. And like the good news is like everything has been so terrible feeling the last few like weeks at that point, to where I was like, man, anything is going to bring me joy. Anything that is a change in pace and vibe from like what I have just endured. And like I was like, man, I could show up and like they could have no plans, and it could just be like, let's wake up and just like wander around here or there. I mean, I was like, the answer is yes. Like whatever it is that you would normally be doing on this day, or whatever pops in your head, like whatever place to eat you want to try, the answer is yes. Like yes, 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 yes. Whatever it is that I normally wouldn't necessarily be into, yes, the answer is yes to that. So um there's a lot to be said for that attitude too. Like sort of like when everything changes, change everything. Um, I don't mean to like go off the deep end and like, shave your head. Although, hell, I mean, maybe do that if that's your thing. But for me, it was just like knowing that whatever it was that was presented to me was going to be a really welcome change of pace in a new environment, and it was. So um, that got me thinking, though, about why was it that this was like the best birthday that I can remember having in like years, and like why I was able in these last 2 weeks to experience so much joy. Um, and yet it's not like I have some grand trip that like I can report on, or some grant, like there's no huge change in like life circumstance, except the fact that like from the very start of the whole process after my dogs were gone, I was like, okay, your focus is joy. Like that is all you have to focus on um, for the next 2 weeks, because I just knew that if I did that, I didn't have to know how or what needed to happen or anything. That was what I was going to do. And um, so I was actually talking to my cousin about that, like when I was visiting him, and like it was in the context of food. And one thing, I did so much cooking there because I love cooking for people that I love, number one, but I love cooking in their kitchen. Like I'm simple like that. Like they have an awesome like gas range, and it's fun cooking in other people's kitchens, but it's really fun cooking in other people's kitchens whose kitchens are like nicer than yours. Um, and people that you love. So I had a really good time cooking, and like just like the little mundane things, like this was very moon in the third house for the astrology watchers right now. Like your third house is like your local out and about, your like local coffee shop and your neighbors and your community. It's also where siblings and cousins are found, like in the wheel of houses. And so the third house, when your moon is in the third house, it's very much somebody who, wherever they are, gets like local places get the special treatment. So like you could put me in an Airbnb, you could put me in a hotel room, you could put me anywhere, and that's my locality, and that's what gets the special treatment. So like if you're my neighbor like at the Airbnb, or if you're my neighbor here where I live, or if you're my neighbor over at my cousin's house where I stay, like your family, like your community here, like you are in my little periphery of like my locality right now. And so if you want to come to dinner, like yeah, come to dinner. If you want to talk about plants, like yeah, let's talk about plants. And so I really enjoyed going about the mundane things somewhere else, and like getting up and being like, oh, what grocery store do they go to? Well, this is my grocery store for the next few days. And um thinking, getting up and going, oh, well, what would I like to make for dinner tonight? And like, oh, let me get in my car and go to their little grocery store. And then at their grocery store, asking some stranger to use their little shopper card because I don't have one for where they go. That's definitely moon in the third house stuff right there. So I'm going to the local coffee shops. I went to two of the local coffee shops there, um, combining two of my favorite things, like local and coffee shop. And so um, going back to like my cousin and I's talk about like food and like um, why this was such an enjoyable birthday. And I was trying to come up with the term when I was talking to him about it, and I couldn't think of it then, but now I have it. I actually wrote it down. Effort driven reward cycle. So I was trying to explain to him. I was like, of course, my evangelical like stance on food. I'm like, you got to get your hands on food, and like I know, not everyone has like time or whatever, but I know you love food, and you got this great kitchen, and I know you appreciate food, and like it's almost like when you have like enough success and you can outsource or delegate a lot of the more mundane parts of your life, um, and that works out fine, and it's like economically sound and everything, and you can even get like nutrition that way. There's like something that is lost that both my cousin and his wife like were kind of like acknowledging about like just the enjoyment of food, like how it was hard to get excited about the meals, even if it's like, yeah, we order in this service, like this like meal prep service, and it's really good and reliable, and like all the nutrients are there and like a good selection. So no real cause for complaint, except like removing yourself so much from like the preparation of it or what goes into it. It made it like just exponentially less exciting, like just the whole act of like eating dinner or eating any meal. And so I just thought like, man, if I can have any influence here, it's not like I'm not trying to get people to change things that like work for them and their like, you know, lifestyle and their, you know, their demands and like what their schedule allows for and all that. But like just to sort of get people looking at things in a different, like maybe, oh, maybe like once a week or twice a week, I could get excited about doing this one thing and like still keep my meal service. But like get my hands in on the process on days where I can. So sometimes it's just the weekend and getting excited about it, like getting excited about like the colors and the textures and like the artistic side of food that like happens to be a really useful, I guess, rule of thumb when it comes to nutrition, like sort of the whole eat the rainbow approach when you're like going, you know, at a farmer's market or like in the produce section. If you're if you don't know where to start, a good place to start when piecing together a salad is like how many colors can you get in there? And just by doing that, you're not only like indulging a certain, at least I am, like sort of childlike part of you that's like, oh, look at all the pretty colors, like put in this bowl and like I'm gonna eat this. I'm gonna eat this beautiful thing. But it's also a good way to ensure that you're getting a good variety of nutrients. Like produce section is really valuable like that. So just sort of incorporating the creative element of food preparation and like how that itself can like create some joy for you and just like the everyday mundane requirements of your life. And so, you know, we're just talking about that, the whole effort driven reward cycle and how it can be easy to, when everything's going well and you're really good at automating your life and like running the numbers and going, yeah, this service makes sense for this and this and this. And like, we still have money left over, you know, to where economically everything's all sound and good to go. And everyone has time now to do everything that they need. Um, you're kind of left wondering, like, why am I so dissatisfied? Like, I'm not ungrateful, you know, it's not like I'm not grateful, but I do think that there is like a wisdom in like detecting, like, why am I not satisfied? Because, you know, you might be wired to think like it, stating that to yourself is like, you know, no one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear me complain. Like, it's not like I'm hurting for this or that. But I was really glad to like hear them both say like, yeah, like we can't complain, but like it's not very satisfying. I gotta say, like, and I don't know why, because we both like food. And I just can't help but think that there's like probably a lot of people out there that can relate to that. It's like something about not having your hands in on the process. And when I bring that to the whole cultivation of joy, and why this was such a good birthday, despite it coming off the heels of like probably the most traumatic experience of my adult life so far. I think that's where those two things really matched up. As I was like, effort driven reward cycle. It was me realizing that I had to sort of take the wheel about what kind of birthday this was going to be, and that anything else that came that I wasn't expecting was just going to be like bonus joy. And so that's what made it like so good, is because there were lots of bonus joys. They were like, um, for somebody that decided that like I was going to put all my effort into cultivating joy for this birthday, I sure was lucky to have like all kinds of people um, participating in one way or another in this birthday. Um, Even just friends of my cousins and like people that just showed up and like were good company and participated in um, the festivities that were less about like my birthday and more about like uh, my cousin's cousin being in town and like let's just all go out and do something or a cook dinner. It was just like a I don't know. It was like exactly the pace that I needed, and it made it much easier to come home and like stay with that same momentum of saying yes to new things and giving myself permission to like, oh, I'm going to start doing it this way, even though I've never done it before. There's no reason why I can't do it this way now. I don't have um, any reason to say no. I don't have any reason to hurry up so I can get to this other thing. You know, I don't have to do this other thing anymore. And uh, not getting caught in the guilt that comes with being glad that I have more of my life force for myself. Because like I said in the other video, the truth is it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. And um, I still miss my dogs a lot. Like sometimes I'll just sit there and like just look around and like think, man, not even a month ago, you know, this was here and these rugs were there and these nose prints were here and this basket of toys was there and the food station was there and like it's all gone. Um, and it can be a little bit like jarring at times. Um, but I try not to like linger in those moments. I like observe them, but I don't get stuck there because there's no good that can come of that. So um, I did say at the end of the last video that I was going to try to do what I've been doing for the last year and like alchemize, transmute the energy, transmute the grief, because you know there was no anger to offset this grief. This was like just love with like nowhere to go, no anger to offset it. And so it's like a love that I now have to carry where there's no physical bodies present. And so I said I was going to try to turn it into something beautiful, which you know I have been doing through creating food. Like I baked my famous lavender blueberry muffins the night before I left to go stay with my cousin and his wife. And like my cousin's wife loves those muffins, so of course I love making them because I love that she loves them. So and I had like some blueberries, and I wasn't about to let some blueberries go bad in my refrigerator. So I turned those into blueberry lavender muffins because even though emotionally there was like a lot I was handling and like trying to get packed and all that to be gone, it was like sort of its own little alchemy, you know, creating those blueberry lavender muffins and knowing that they would be enjoyed where I was going. And so cooking was like a big part of turning it into something beautiful. But then I was lucky enough the weekend following my actual birthday weekend, I hosted both of my cousins. So the cousin I stayed with and his wife, and then my younger cousin, who I've talked about before, who was here like helping me. He's like my like landscaping like um, right hand man, and like we have transformed like the backyard, especially with our little planting projects. And like when we get together both in the kitchen and like in the garden, it we just like tear it up. We're like perfect teammates in that way. So it had been a while since like, well, I had never hosted all of them, you know, here at the same time in sort of like my new life, since my ex-fiance was out of the picture. But like now, you know, with my dogs on, so it was like this sort of birthday celebration continuation here at this house in the new energy. And like the big project that we were tackling was sort of cleansing, like both literally but like mostly spiritually, the the backyard, what used to be, you might say, a trauma box, which is a shame because it's a beautiful structure. It was a gym, a backyard gym, and it was built like when the pandemic came and like my ex was sort of in denial about like the pandemic being here, and I was just like, well, I got news for you, like ain't nobody gonna go to the gym for a while, so might be a good time to look into like having something put in the backyard. And so one thing led to another, and like we had like a really awesome structure built in the backyard, a thing to where anybody looking at it from the street is like, wow, what is that? It's like it's awesome. And like it took like months to like get done. We had like people here, which was its own point of stress, especially while like conditions were deteriorating, like with my older dog at that time, and she was going blind. It was like a really big point of stress, but that's why when it was completed, it was like, wow, it was such like a big deal. And so then, not surprisingly, it quickly was like taken over by him. And I just had like this one little corner of it that like I had like my workout stuff, but like it was by and large like his space, and that's like what was very much made known. So there was another attachment, like the thing aside from it having that aspect to it. The night that I discovered that he was cheating was finding him on the phone standing there in that gym at 3 a.m. one night, February 5th, 2023. And the way that it happened was I was upstairs, and it had been a really bad day. And so I went to bed early, and he was downstairs with the dogs watching a movie, and it was really loud. And what woke me up was I heard Bear just doing this bark. It was like this constant bark. If you've watched some of the earlier videos, you've heard the bark where it's like she is being ignored. It's like a bark to where either she knows people or someone's around and like she's being ignored, or that's usually what it is. So like I heard that bark, and so she kept going, and so I came downstairs. Um, I expected to find him asleep on the couch or something, and it was like her, barking, saying, I'm ready to go upstairs and go to bed. That's what I thought I was going to find. Well, I came downstairs, and like he was nowhere to be found, and it was weird because like I'm looking all around, like the car's there, look outside, it's like pitch black, so no lights are on in the gym, anything, and he was just like nowhere to be found. And so that's like the bark she would make when like circumstances would suggest he's here, but like she doesn't smell him or hear him. So I'm just like really confused. And then I'm like, well, I guess I'll go. I guess I'll put on a jacket. It was really cold. Put on a jacket and some shoes, like even though I'm in my pajamas, and go out to the gym. And like I walk out there, pitch black, and then I open the door, and there he is, just standing on the phone, like looking like a deer caught in headlights. And I'm just like, my first thought is like, is everything okay? I'm like, I was like, who are you on the phone with? And he says his mom. And so then I asked, like, is everything okay? I think someone has died. Um, and he's like, yeah, it's just been a really hard day. And I was just like, for you? It was a hard day for me. But like, it was like, clearly it didn't make sense because like he didn't have an answer prepared. So I was just like, at that point, I'm just standing at the threshold, the Saturnian spot, the threshold where everything changes. But, um, and I was just like so exhausted emotionally and mentally from like that day, but also like just months before. And I'm just like, I felt so defeated. I was like, okay. And I just closed the door and like walked away down the path back towards the house. And it wasn't just like, but a couple like seconds afterwards where he's like coming through the door and closing it behind him and like following me down the path, like not saying anything. And then like a series of very terrible things happened after that I don't want to talk about. So that was a place that had become a trauma box to me. Like, it was, if even I had a chance of like taking back ownership of that space right after he left, despite it being like, you know, outfitted with all of his stuff and like very much smelling like a gym, uh, that moment sort of like made that impossible. So it was like sort of the last frontier of like my space that I hadn't taken back since he had been gone. And like, it was just one of those things where like I had done all these other things, like all these milestones on myself, and like, you know, taking down the Christmas decorations on myself and like putting them up, opening closets and like emptying drawers where he had left stuff, you know, lots of painful band-aid removals. And like, it was just one thing I couldn't do. Like, I was like, I can't do it. It's too hard. It got to the point where I couldn't even open the door. So months actually went by and I didn't even open the door. It sucked because like every time I would bring the dogs out, it would just be staring at me. And like, um, I would just think, man, if I was like passing by this house on the street, I'd be like, wow, that's a great looking backyard she shed or gym or whatever. And all I could think was like, yeah, too bad I can't bring myself to open the door. So my amazing cousins, and when I say cousins, I mean one of my cousin's wife as well. She's my cousin too now. So they all really showed up for me, and like, they just, on Saturday we woke up, like we all had like a really good night, like on Friday, and then like everyone woke up Saturday and I made a brunch and it was great. And they were just like, all right, let's go. And so everyone just like came together and like got the mop bucket out, and the whole gym was covered with I don't know if you know what horse stall mats are. Anyone that lifts weights like knows, but they're really heavy mats that you got to put down if you're like doing, you know, weightlifting. Um, and they're really expensive too, and they smell like a gym. Like, you smell the mats and you're like, gym. So me personally, the kind of working out I do, I don't need horse stall mats. And I remember before he had ordered them and installed them, really liking like the flooring. You know, it's like a concrete slab, but then like, you know, it's got a proper floor. And like it was like this nice like all weather like sort of engineered wood underneath the horse stall mats. And I had only gotten to see those for a little bit of time because, you know, once the whole structure was finished, it was like pretty quick that he had ordered the horse stall mats and installed them. And so it would be impossible for me to have removed them by myself. But with everyone here to help, you know, because my cousin has like a gym at his house. He turned his garage into one. So he's had to get horse stall mats and like go through all that. And he was like, yeah, I know your goal is to just get rid of them, and like we can do that, but you know, you could definitely get some money for these. And so he, being who he is, he was like, I could probably change my location on Facebook, and I'll just get on Facebook and like make a listing, and you know, I guarantee you we can get rid of them today. So like, he just like took care of the whole thing. He just went on there and like made a listing, and like I just let go of the whole process. And meanwhile, like everyone else was like cleaning, and they would tell me what supplies they needed, and I would just like gather that. And um, it didn't take very long at all, like to get it, because it's not like it was just full of stuff. It was really just like, you know, getting cobwebs down and like cleaning the windows, and like, but mostly just like removing the horse stall mats, and then like bringing them to the top of the driveway so that, you know, someone who ended up buying them, you know, just as they said, we had no trouble getting rid of them. And came and picked them up, and so they were gone, like no longer my problem. And like the floor got mopped, and like um, everything that needed to come back in there, just like a simple set of like free weights of mine, and like the stuff that I used was back. And then I just marveled at like how the transformation really felt. Like, it felt like a totally different space. It was brand new. It was mine. And like, I just stood in there and thought, wow, like I am really excited about the possibilities of this space. Like, not only for it being my own workout space, but creative space, you know? And so I'm really excited to share with you that that is something within the next couple days, because I wanted to make this video and tell you guys about it first. I will be showing the before and after. Everyone loves before and afters. I love before and afters. And I was lucky enough to find a video that I had taken of the gym back February of 2022. And I had taken the video just showing it was like a 1 minute video where I just like did sort of a walk around, like panorama of the equipment all set up and sort of like, yeah, this is the gym. And it was clearly like a guy's gym with like a little corner where I was like allowed to be. And so I found that video, and it was really exciting to go back and look at that and like feel a sense of like I don't know, instead of like sort of cringing and like looking at it and like have it be a painful thing, being able to then do the after video that my cousin took at the end of the weekend. And like I had added some creative touches. I had moved some area rugs from the inside of the house that I wanted to switch out eventually to out there. And like it's like the most exciting before and after video I've ever seen. You know, of course I'm biased, but I'm gonna make a special video showing you guys just sort of like the before video. It won't be a short. It will just be like a normal video upload because I won't be able to make it 60 seconds or less. So just keep an eye out for it. I'm really excited about making it. And I am going to plug my friend who's been, him and his wife have been like invaluable people in my life for the past year, and like, you know, through everything, including up to and including saying goodbye to my dogs. And he has just fairly recently like launched his photography business. It's called Oak and Rosin. And um, before I had the courage, like actually a couple weeks before, a couple weeks ago, like before I said goodbye to my dogs and everything, when I told him about the plan to like for my cousins to come and like us to um, take back the gym, he offered to do like some before and after photos. So he actually was the first one in months to go in there. I told him, I was like, all right, I'm gonna open my gate, have at it, you know, take the sad photos of the before, but just FYI, like I'm not gonna go out there. I have to wait for the moral support of like my entire family to be here. Sorry. So he was fine with that. He just showed up one day and he was like, all right, I'll be back here taking pictures. And he was like, yeah, it stinks in there. He was like, I gotta say, these are some really sad before photos. And I'm like, I'm sure they are. So he was the first to step foot in there for a couple months. He got some before photos, and he hasn't come over yet. So Mike, if you're watching this, come take the after photos. Um, I'm gonna get him to take a couple after photos because I've added some more stuff to it since my cousin made the after video. But I'm going to plug all these things together. The before video, like some of the before from February 2022, the sad before photo from like the beginning of this year before I had even stepped foot in it again. And then a couple snapshots of like progress of like it being cleaned out. I didn't take many pictures of the process. Honestly, it didn't take that long. Um, and then the sort of after like video panorama and whatever after photos I can get Oak and Rosin to come and give. So I want to make that plug there. And I will say he Oak and Rosin for one of my birthday gifts gifted me a photo of his that he had mounted on canvas. And it's when he gave it to me, he even said like, you can do what you want with it, but I imagine that you would want to put it out in the gym. I figured it would look good, like sort of your first like new piece of art out there. And he was right. I was like, yeah, I can't wait to get the gym made over, and that's where it's going to go. And so that's where it hangs now. It looks great, of course. And so you'll see that in the video, and I'll remember to put a link to if you like nature photography, that's like stuff that you're into. He has his whole site launched now. He's very like diligent like that, you know. Whereas some of us like do creative things and it takes us a long time to just like get like an Instagram page set up. That's me. But Oak and Rosin's on top of it. So they've got he's got his whole website lined up to where you can like order any of his photographs like mounted on like all kinds of things, like different types of paper, canvas, whatever. So stay on the lookout for that really fun before and after video. And I think that's it. I'm on my last carrot. Feels good to be back chopping carrots with y'all. And I really appreciate you coming back to this channel. And I really hope that me grieving and like trying to overcome and all those things in front of you, whoever you are, is helpful. And I look forward to filming future videos from the backyard studio, is what it's now called. So, in the meantime, I hope you take care of yourselves. Bye bye.